Yes, and we really want this to be interactive. I'll be asking questions that you can respond to in the chat, or if you're comfortable and you want to answer out loud, go ahead and just take yourself off of mute. And then also, if you want me to go back or you have questions on anything, just if you have a question, you can either write it in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself whenever. I think everybody has the ability to unmute, if I'm correct. But you can also use the chat. So I hope everybody sees my slide deck. It's the 2-page business plan workshop. That's what we're doing today. And if you haven't realized, we sort of changed the way we do workshops at Change Labs. And so we are launching workshops almost every day. And all of our workshops are designed to get borrowers ready for their loan application, if that's what you're looking to do. But you also, because it's a lot around financials and business planning, even if you're not a loan borrower or loan applicant, these workshops really get you like to a point where you would be ready to start seeking financial capital, or even just like to get things in order, make sure that your business is operating well, or how to get to that point. So that's what we're doing, which is why we decided a 2-page business plan would be awesome. It's one of the requirements for our loan is to have either a business plan. It depends on what loan you're applying for, but it's either a business plan or it's a business model canvas, which we'll take a look at that a little bit later. So my name is Jessica Stago. I am Batani. Born for White Mountain Apache. My Chays were Kia'ani, and I'm also, or my Nalis were also White Mountain Apache. My title is Director of Capital Strategies here at Change Labs. I'm also a co-founder. And I also hold another title as the Just Transition Director at Grand Canyon Trust. So I do a couple different things. So today we'll talk about business plans. Why do we even need to do it? What's the purpose of it? How do we use it? And then what are the different parts of the business plan? So we're trying to fit all of different parts into a 2-page document. Now the 2-page is really just to sort of alleviate some of the requirements that people have, like, oh, I don't want to sit down and write all this out. For this workshop, we're really not going to be doing very much writing. It's a lot of bullet points. So the 2-page is going to be a lot of bullet points. You will know eventually what you'll need to have a little bit more of explanation around. But for now, we're just kind of getting the parts on the page and our bulleted ideas on the page of what we need to talk about or what we should talk about. Also helps you to kind of think through, like, what am I missing? What do I need to still think about? We'll talk a little bit more about other tools that we use, including the business model canvas. We'll talk a little bit about financial projections, and then we can have some time to talk at the end if you'd like, or if you have time. So I do want to know if you're operating a business already or starting a new business. So go ahead and put that into the chat. It's always good for me to know, who we're talking to, and to make sure to kind of include things as I'm talking, if I know who is on the other side of the screen here. Also, put in, if you do have a business, tell me the name of your business and also what type of product or service you provide. Okay, so what is the purpose of a business plan? That's what we'll get into first. I think my slides are out of order. Hold on. Let me click out of it just so I can see this. Okay, never mind. All right, so the purpose of the business plan, a lot of times, okay, now I see what I'm doing. A lot of times, the main purpose, honestly, for a business plan is to give it to a lender or an investor so they understand what you're trying to do and it's there in writing. Something about writing things down really kind of solidifies things and and sort of creates a, not permanency, but it makes you think through all of the details, because you want what you write down to be accurate. So in the chat, there's 4 answers to the question, why do you need or want to write a business plan? So why are you here today? And if you can pick from one of the 4. So 1 is for your loan application. 2 is you're starting a new business. 3 is to help you plan for the future. And 4 is to help you understand the different components of the business. All right. Nice. Hi, everybody. Hi, Candice. Hi, Carlos. Hi, Albert. Cool. All very cool businesses, all businesses that you should have a business plan for. In a perfect world, the reason that you would write a business plan is actually for number 4. It's just a way for you to plan a successful business. But to be completely honest, I rarely do businesses who don't need lending or don't need financial capital. Rarely do they do a business plan. And then if they do a business plan, they usually just do it once, and then that's all they ever do. But normally, if we were all perfect people, we would write a business plan and then refer back to it and allow it to guide our decisions later on. So if you write a plan in the beginning and about a new business, and then you launch the business, and then you have things come up, right? Things change. You have an opportunity that might present itself, and you have to decide if you're going to change the way what you thought about when you first went to start a business, or keep with the plan. So in that situation, you would look back at the plan and remind yourself of why you started the business and how and what your plan was in the beginning. And then this opportunity can be evaluated based on, is that an extension of this plan, or is that completely different? And I need to make that kind of, make that decision whether or not I'm going to do that or not. So that would be, as a business coach, my preference would be for you to answer this question to be number 4. But I know that's not always the case. I mean, that's usually not the case, but so let's go ahead and move forward to the parts of a business plan. All right, so if you have a piece of paper handy, get out a piece of paper, and because we're going to just go through the parts, and then what we want you to do is just do the bullet points for today. And then you can go back and fill in what you feel like you need to fill in or change. And then also, it's a really good time. We actually have 4 business coaches, 4 business coaches on the call right now. So if you have any questions and you're not sure about a certain section of the business plan, you can ask the question and get it answered right now. So your first part of it is just your objectives of the business, not the objectives of the plan, but the objectives of the business. So for an example, you might want to achieve that your business will generate $10,000 in revenue in the next year. You want to obtain $25,000 in debt financing, which is a loan to purchase equipment, or maybe your business will purchase the building you're currently leasing for operations. So there needs to be some sort of achievement that you want, and some sort of timeline associated with that. And you should have 3 to 7 objectives for your business. So if you're just brainstorming right now, just write down everything you can think of about what you want to achieve with your business, and then maybe a timeline. You can always go back and figure out the timelines, because sometimes that might get a little confusing to do right now. But for now, list all the achievements that you want your business to experience in the next, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. You can even write objectives specifically for those timelines if that's how you want to think about it. All right, any questions on the objectives? Does everybody have at least one thing written down? So from a lender perspective or an investor perspective, what they're looking for in this in these objectives is, does the objectives of the business align with what I want to support, or why I'm thinking about or considering this loan application, or why I might invest. So that's what, it's a really quickly, these are the things I want to achieve. It helps them to say, okay, that looks like something that I would be interested in supporting. And then the second part of the plan will be your mission statement. So here, there's lots of rules around mission statements. But for right now, we just, again, want to do 3 to 5 bullet points. What do you want your business to accomplish in the bigger environment that you work in? What is the mission of the business? So like if I was starting a pizza restaurant that has delivery and like delivery. Remember, I think it was one of the pizza companies, they started opening these locations that was just for delivery, like only for pickup or delivery. Like they didn't have a restaurant. It was just like they make pizza, and I think Little Caesars is like that. But anyway, so let's say I open one of those, and my specialty is going to be delivery. Like that's all I care about is delivering pizzas. So then my mission might be something like to be the fastest pizza delivery company in my town. So that's my mission. So then everything that I do is to make sure that I can deliver pizza in the fastest way possible. Everything from the equipment that I buy to the place that I'm located at. Is it a place I can get everywhere pretty quickly? Are my drivers safe but fast? Buying fast cars for my delivery? Whatever it is, whatever decisions you're making, it's going to support the mission. So that's why here you have to think through, what is it that I want my business to do? So a couple examples that I put here is help Native entrepreneurs build their capacity to start and operate thriving businesses. And this is my brainstorm for Change Labs. Reduce barriers and obstacles to starting and growing businesses on the reservation land. Provide a space where the community can gather and work together. So for me, these are just our bulleted mission. So then later I would go back and craft a statement that summarizes this. So that's the second part of the mission. Second part of the business plan. All right, then the third is going to be your summary. This is where all of the legal information about your business is going to be, and who owns the business, just a description of what the business is. So how is your company organized? Change Labs is organized as a nonprofit organization in the state of Arizona. The organization was founded by Heather Fleming and Jessica Stago. And then if there's 2 owners, you would say they each own 50%, or they co-manage the business, or whatever you want to talk a little bit about what that relationship is, but very succinctly, how many employees, where your company is located, or what markets does it serve. So it's just like the core information about the business. So go ahead and write those down, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll move forward. Any questions? Am I going too fast, or does people have any questions? Okay. So number 4 on the parts of the business plan this is going to be your products or services. So again, you're just going to list this for now. List the merchandise you sell. List the services you sell. Everything that you can charge a customer for, or do charge a customer for, write it down. And this isn't about your pricing strategy right now. So like if you only charge one price but includes these things, just write down all of the things that you charge customers for. So it's not about your pricing strategy yet. Any product groups that you have. So maybe you have products, but you also provide services. So those are your 2 product groups. Trying to think of another business that has multiple product groups. Like earlier, I was talking to somebody who sell t-shirts, but they also sell mugs and tumblers. but they also sell journals and planners. And then they also do a part of their business where they do custom designs or custom orders from customers. So they have different products. They have like merchandise, and then they have like writing merchandise, and then they have like special small batch orders. So those are sort of three different product groups that they have. Holly, you have a question?
Yeah, well, I was just going to build on that. I think if anything, a lot of business owners who end up working a lot with Change Labs, they end up kind of organically creating a different service and not just or creating a service that they thought they were only product based, because they end up leading a workshop, or they end up being a great kind of mentor, consulting services type of thing. So like from being products only to then they start kind of traveling into this area of taking on a more advisory service than anything, or even to helping to lead workshops, be on panels, do speaking engagements and things about their business. So therefore, sometimes if you think that you're only product based, there's always an opportunity that you could essentially provide a service at some point that's not so direct of one-to-one customers, but instead that's like a speaking engagement, or essentially like, doing a workshop for a public community center, or things like that. That I think a lot of businesses that we ended up that work heavily a lot with Change Labs at our events end up finding themselves having to itemize or create invoices for, and even to being connected to other organizations to do that same work too.
And one of the workshops that we do at Change Labs too is thinking through revenue streams. And the business model canvas also asks about different revenue streams. So like Holly was explaining, there could be other possibilities that you could draw revenue from, especially like things like YouTube channels and social media. Those are also new revenue streams that you could just add to what you're already doing. Thank you, Holly. And then also, what licenses, subscriptions, or guarantees do you provide along with your products and services? So if you guarantee, there's a vendor who's an artist, and she guarantees all of her work. So every sale, she puts a little card in there that says made by her company, and then this card is your lifetime guarantee. And she puts her email and her phone number there. So like, and she makes all these beaded jewelry. So if something happens and one of her necklaces breaks, they can send it back to her and she'll fix it for free. Or the other cool thing is she sells earrings. So if you lose one side of your earring, she'll send you the other side for free. So there might be guarantees. Also, if you have professional services and you are licensed, you want to make sure that your reader knows that you're licensed. Okay, so Ruben wants to see what number 4 was on the company summary. So where is your company located, or the area that you serve? So we are located in Tuba City, Arizona, and we serve the Western Navajo and Hopi nations. Or we serve these chapters, or we serve however you want to describe it. State of Arizona, state of New Mexico, the Four Corners area. Okay, so products or services. This is supposed to be 5. Oops. Okay, so 5 is identify your ideal customer. Oops. So there's a tool that we use for this, but this is basically really thinking through who your ideal customer is going to be. So if somebody asks you, who's your customer, and you say everybody, then this is for you. Because what you want to do to really be able to provide a product or service that your customer values, you have to understand who that customer is, what kind of person they are, what questions would they ask you, Why would they ask you the question? Why would they be interested in your product or service? What is it about their life that attracts them to your company? All these things. So thinking through who they actually are is really important. Really getting to know, you'll see all these, workshops and headlines for, events that say getting to know your customer, or that's what this is about, like really understanding who it is that would be interested in buying your product or service, what value do they get from it. And it helps you in a whole bunch of different ways. It helps you, one, to make sure you're delivering that value so that customer is a happy customer, who becomes somebody who champions your business, who becomes a returning customer. You can count on returning sales from them, or you can count on their spreading the word about your company to other people that are just like them, because we all kind of, as humans, we group together with people who are like us, and that's just kind of a natural thing. So as long as you can identify who it is, you're identifying the group of customers that would come, that would be the easiest to attract to your business. So what are their background? What kind of jobs do they hold? What kind of income do they have? What kind of family arrangements do they have? Of course, their demographics. So you want to know their age, their income, their education level, whether they're male or female, if they have families, if they have kids. Maybe you are targeting people who actually don't have kids. Maybe they have dogs. So what are those details about them? Sometimes you want to know a little bit more about their personality. Are they somebody who, are they that person that has to have every detail perfectly aligned before they do something? Or can everything be a mess and they're still going to do whatever it is they want to do? What are their political leanings? What are their communication preferences? Even what social media are they on? Are they a TikTok person? Are they a Facebook person? How do they communicate? Maybe they're not on social media at all. Maybe they are, they only, spend their time on digital platforms during work. So how are you going to reach them then? What hobbies do they have? And then in terms of a value proposition, really understanding what it is they worry about that has to do with your product or service. So they call these customer pains. What is it that pains your customer about consuming their product or service? So is it that they have to find it? Is it hard to find? Is it hit or miss whether or not they actually get the quality or actually the product? It's just kind of like, it doesn't always work out well. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So that's something they have to worry about. Is it really expensive? And so the customer has to save money for it, or the customer has to really think about how they're going to get the income or the money to purchase the product. So, or maybe there's a little bit of like, offering some sort of like layaway plan or something like that. So what are the things that the customer worries about that you can consider in either the product design or the delivery of the product to the market? And then the last one that I have on here is life goals. So understanding where your customer is trying to go in their life. Are they at a place where they're pretty much, settled? They own their own home. They're married. They have kids. Maybe their kids are adult. So they don't have to worry about little kid stuff anymore. Or maybe they're just starting their life. Maybe they're career oriented, and that's all they think about all day is what they're going to do with their career and how they're going to move up in that, how they're going to achieve their goals. So is that where they are in their life? This also helps because if your product is only for a certain age group, then you need to be thinking about the next generation or the generation that's gone, that's older. How do they think about your product, or the upcoming generation as people move out of the age group? How do you move more people in? So another thing to think about when you're identifying your ideal customer. So the tool that we use at Change Labs is called the Ideal Customer Canvas. And this is just an example of it. So this is a business that cuts hair primarily for kids with autism. And so the ideal customer's name is Tommy, and he's 7 years old. He's young. He's part of a family. He's autistic, doesn't like to sit for too long, and has different ways of communicating, has sensory issues. So that's part of the personality piece. Some of the things that are going to be a struggle when it comes to getting haircuts for this person is that they're afraid of loud sounds. So considering that they may be afraid of the clippers, the business has to think through what a solution for that. So the solution is to talk them through the process, let them know there's going to be a sound, there's these clippers are loud. I don't know if they've invented silent clippers yet, but and then let them know, just encouraging them that they're doing well. There's a box here called objections, which is why aren't they buying your product or service? So what are the things that what are the areas that are created where the business or the customer might decide not to buy the product or service? Like, is it too expensive, or is it not high enough quality, or is it that there's too much competition, like they can go anywhere and get that product or service? So for the hair clipper, it's parents could be financially stable. I think she meant unstable, or they think because the child is young they don't need certain service or products. And then she'll address that. So then how do you address that? That's the conversations. What would be your answer to these objections, basically? And then writing what your story is based on who your ideal customer is. So we can certainly send out this tool if you all want to use it. We can email that to you if you want to. Just let us know in the chat. So up to now, we have gone through, I think, five parts of the business plan. And so in terms of the 2-page, because we, as I said when we first started, what we're trying to do is give you the parts of the business plan, and then brainstorm today what the bullet points would say for each parts. So if you have a piece of paper, make sure you're just brainstorming, writing these down, and then we can talk about it, or we can answer questions today if you have questions. But that we're just trying to get everything onto the paper. So anything that comes later, any ideas or questions that come up and that need to be answered, we can do that at a later time. For now, I just want to do a real quick space check and see if we're still on 2 pages, or if somebody says, I'm on page 5, then, or maybe you haven't even finished 1 page. Really, I think about this time, you should be about 1.5 pages. Maybe not that, maybe a full page. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and continue with the rest of the parts of the business plan. And, oh, okay, I was trying to get to the chat because I saw there was stuff in the chat. Okay, so we'll send out the ideal customer canvas. All right, so moving on, the 5th is gonna be the marketing strategy. This is probably gonna take at least half a page, because we'll be talking a little bit about what I've already talked about, but this is the strategy piece of it. So you've thought through what your products or services are. You've thought through who your customer is by now. The next is your marketing strategy, which is identifying the segments of the market. So now you're going to be thinking about your customers in groups, because you might have more than one type of customer. Your ideal customer is that one person that you want to communicate with, because if you're communicating with them, you're probably communicating with a bigger group. But here with the strategy, you want to think through how you'll communicate with them, and if they belong to bigger groups that you can talk to all of them at one time. So identifying the greater market or market segment. So it might be like the person I'm thinking about in my head, they live in Tuba City. So actually the greater market is going to be the Tuba City, that's a community of Tuba City. Or actually any reservation town that has, a population of 20,000 or more than 10,000, that's who my markets are going to be. You want to think about demographics. So, are they, homeowners? Do they have dogs? Do they have livestock? Do they live, out, one demographic you could think of that's really relevant for people on the res is, do they live in the community or do they live out, in the rural places? Another demographic is, do they have access to internet at home or do they not? It also could be geographic or any other relevant characteristics that you're thinking of. And then you want to think about the trends that impact these groups. So an example is, can anybody think of a trend that's specific to our communities? So I think there's a lot of trends that are specific to our communities. There's the way we celebrate fairs, fair season, basketball, even Facebook.
I was gonna say pinyon season. That seems
Yes, piñons, rodeo. So are there specific trends that have to do with your market segments or your groups of customers? Another trend that we do is that we really celebrate graduations. Like our entire families go to graduations, go to one person's graduation, and they travel pretty far. Like some people you'll see, like they'll only have their one parent or their two parents at their even their college graduation, and then you see a Native person and like there's like 20 people there for their graduation. So that's another trend that we really celebrate graduations. So it could also be like, is there a trend that's going on in your market around, not eating pork or, not eating meat at all? Maybe your customer base is healthy, people who eat very healthy and clean. It could be that your market segment is runners. So a trend for them might be, a certain shoe that everybody's buying. Raquel says blue corn everything. Yeah, that's another trend, is everything's blue corn now. So those are market trends that you want to consider because they help you to figure out how to communicate with your customer. What's the best use of your investment in marketing? So you know what your products or services are, your revenue streams, and you also know who your target customer is, so you can craft a message specifically for them. But then now you're thinking through, okay, how do I get that message out to all the customers that I need to reach? And then here you'll also think about who your competitors are, who or what your competitors are. So you may not have direct competitors. You might have like, you're thinking about that dollar that your customer has to spend with your company. Do they have an option to spend it somewhere else? Or do they have an option actually to even not spend it at all and save it? So what is your competition analysis? What's competing for that dollar? It could be another product or service that's very similar to yours. in which case you'll have to think through how you differentiate yourself from that. Or it could be that, let's say you have a tour company, and the competitor is really like, they're either going to do the tour with you, or they're just going to continue on and not stay in, not spend time in the community that you operate in. In that case, again, how do you manage that? How do you get people to stay? You might have to do some marketing that's a little bit outside of your direct product or service, and really is more directed to, how do I get people to stay here long enough that they would sign up for a tour? So, preemptive communication with them about them planning their vacation. So things like that will help you. If you think through what your competition is, it'll help you to think through, how do you actually combat that? And then the last part of this is communicating your value proposition. And this is really about storytelling. This is when I was talking about your target customer and crafting your narrative to them. This is what it is about. You're crafting a narrative to tell them about the value that you can add to their life by purchasing your product or service. What value are you providing to them? And of course, there's a lot of context around that. If your product or service is about, let's just say you're a financial planning coach, and you are trying to get people to pay you to help them manage their personal finances for retirement, or maybe they want to buy a house, or maybe they want to go on a dream vacation, or maybe they're just looking at how they can pay less taxes. So you want them to pay you to do that. So there's a context around, what value are you providing to them? So you could talk to them all day about, their revenue and their expenses, but the value that you provide to them is really explaining how you can help them get to whatever their bigger goal is, what they worry about, what they're concerned about. Am I making the right decisions on a daily basis with my finances that's going to help me to make sure that I can retire and live comfortably during retirement? So those are the things. So you want to be speaking to that, and not to the actual product or the service that you're providing. Like if I say, oh, you need to have bank accounts that do this, I can show you how to do that. I can show you how to, file your taxes so you don't pay taxes. I can show you where you need to be putting your revenue, what bank accounts with what interest rates. Most people, they know that's what financial planning is. So you can talk all day about that, but that doesn't convince them that they need you to help them do all of that so they can get to this bigger goal. So really communicating what your value proposition is really has a lot to do with your storytelling, and the way that you talk about your business or your service. That's storytelling, and we all have it in us. We just have to kind of activate it in some way. So it takes a little bit of practice, but I'm always amazed at storytelling ability for Native and Native people, because it's amazing, our creativity around that. So that's really something, if you think through all of this, you should be able to come up with a story that's really compelling for your customers, for your marketing strategy. Okay, so moving on. And Ruben says it's not the product or service, but the experience sometimes. And I would say almost all the time it's about the experience. So thank you for that. This number 6 is about management operations. And I can't tell you how many times I've gotten a draft of a business plan and it says nothing about operations or management. Management maybe, but not operations, and it's funny because that's like the main thing, that if I was a banker who was looking, I want to know how you're going to accomplish this on a day-to-day basis, because that's that's what's going to pay the bills, right? That's what's going to pay me back, is that you know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. All the rest of the stuff is important, but it's kind of bluff if you don't have an operations plan. So, and exactly like who is running the show? Holly, you want to jump in?
Yeah, which is kind of funny because when I talk with businesses, that's the first thing that they talk about. And they always forget it. And it's funny that they forget it in their business plan because they talk about the journey that led them to starting it, like what they were doing, how the passion turned into profit, how it started to turn into something that they saw consistently, and like what they're bringing to the table of finding the solution, which is really funny because that's what they start out with. And as soon as it comes into like, oh my God, like, how do I now put what I just told you into words? This is like the most overlooked portion where I'm like, okay, so let's talk about you again. And then they're like, I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. So yeah, it definitely most of the time, I think we had this question earlier this week from on Heather on pitching, because some of you guys may have been able to join us for Heather's workshop on the craft or art of pitching. And this is where this portion comes out a lot, is like, we all pull from different experiences. We all have different experiences that we can pull from to get something accomplished. And if anything, like heavily lean on that if you feel like that is something that you bring. Like, for example, I have essentially an anthropology background, but because of my degree of having an anthropological background, I'm really good at researching. Like, I'm so good at researching and understanding how to solve the problem and observation and therefore communication skills, that I combined all of that to essentially pivot into now understanding like how to problem solve a business's like problem, take an assessment and things like that. So I feel like every person has transferable skills in that way, and think of this section as a place to list your transferable skills from your past history into what you're doing as a leader of this, or of the business that you're starting, of the operations, how you, or even to like how you hope to bring on more people who could fill that portion that you're missing of your business as well too. So yeah, just wanted to add that, Jess.
Thanks, Holly. Yeah, I think it's because people, if they're running a business, that's what they do every day. So they just know it, and they know it's part of the business, and they want to talk about all the other parts in their business plan, but they forget like this is the part that that's really important. And because they do it every day and they're just in that space every day, they forget that they also have to write it down. And also writing it down is not as easy for most people. It's it's just like, where do I start? I think is the hardest part about it. But so here's four places. Again, you can just write this down and then we can go from there. So list your leadership team and their credentials and qualifications. So this is where you're going to talk about who's your management team, or if you're the manager, what are the qualifications that you have. You could talk about your experience. You can talk about your any credentials you have, if you have like certificates, or if you have professional licenses, or if you have if you hold degrees. Or you've managed the company, or you've been the business owner of the company for 10 years already. You can write all that down. And then identify their role and include any cross operational roles, people who are doing more than one thing. So a lot of times, of course, most businesses, the business owner does a lot of things. So you want to write down those roles, and for now, just make a list of it. This is going to be the hardest part, because it's like, which one do you do the most? And it's really a question of what's really important in the business that you should talk about in terms of operations. And then the next is to think through the operation of the business. What hours are you open? Do you have enough staff to cover the number of hours on that you're operating? had a lot of people do financial projections, and they say, oh, I'm going to be open from 8 a.m. to 8 a.m., 8 p.m., 7 days a week. And it's like, okay, so who are you going to hire? And they say, nobody, just me. And it's like, you're not going to be able to, be the only in person. You're going to have to hire somebody. Nobody can operate a business for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days. So making sure that you have enough capacity to deliver on the operational piece of your business. That's another thing that we talk about when we're doing financial projections. If you have this type of revenue, what's your capacity to generate that kind of revenue? A lot of people say, "Oh, I can do this." But when they really think through their capacity, I was talking to somebody today about going back to the t-shirt company. You're selling 80 t-shirts a day now, or a week. But if you're only open one day a week. If you're open 7 days a week, it's a lot more t-shirts. And do you on your own have that kind of capacity to handle that kind of volume? Or are you going to need to hire somebody? Or are you going to need additional equipment? So I've also had that conversation with like construction companies where they say, oh, this if I can get this contract, it increases my revenue by this much. But then also, what does it do for your labor? Are you going to have to hire additional labor? Or what does that increase in revenue mean to the inputs, your materials or labor? So a lot of things to think about here. This is probably going to be the hardest one for those who are operating, but again, just writing everything in a list at first, and then you can go back and summarize. And then Holly put in, I think that's a really great idea, is starting with a list of bullet points, or even record yourself talking about it and then type it out later. That's a really good idea. I might even try that for myself.
There's also two wonderful things, like if you guys have access to Google Docs, I know there's an automatic recorder. So like you are able to essentially allow access for your computer to have the microphone, have access to the Google document, and you're able to just like talk through it and like see the words kind of typed out in dictation. I know on some MacBooks, there's a special button that you can have in your settings for Notes app or any type of document that you have, to double click that button or just to simply click that button. It'll actually start dictating or start writing what you are saying. As well as too, I think with a lot of entrepreneurs, it was my previous note in the chat that I've seen a trend amongst entrepreneurs is that they feel their first draft has to be their final draft. And that is never the case. And there's so much pressure that I feel entrepreneurs put on, that the first time that they try anything with their business has to be completely perfect. And that has to be the way, and that's set in cement, it's set in permanent marker, it is set as like a tattoo. Like there's no change to their system at all. And it has to be so perfect. And it makes it so much scarier. And I used to be like that. And I used to be that so much that I never thought of any of the processes that I did was in pencil, or even in generally that I was able to allow myself another new blank piece of paper. Whereas like that's not the case. Like you have to go, like we're technically theorizing everything. We're technically creating a system of maybe this will happen if I do this. We're testing things out, and you won't know the conclusion after it until you put it into practice. And that's what you're kind of doing with this business plan, is just putting out a set of directions of is what I hope to do, or even to marking down what has happened in the past and this is what you hope to do going forward. Like it's just to help put directions together for someone who doesn't know your business, so it like kind of logically makes sense of what you hope to essentially achieve as an outcome, and that can always change. Like, you go through it, and I think here at Change Labs, we talk about it a lot, and why the name is called Change Labs, labs of an emphasis, is because it's all about testing things. It's all about essentially failing so that you know how to then succeed, because you failed of, this didn't work right, I have to modify this piece, so then now I can go back into it with a lot more knowledge of how to go forward and be able to make that milestone the next time. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in my coaching calls, that they're like, I'm not ready yet to meet with you because I don't know what you want. And it's like, oh no, no, that should never be your perception. You never should try to guess what I want. You should come to the table with something to show me so I can help you figure out what is then missing or even to what is then left to work on as well too. There's such a high bar of like, this first time will be the only time I submit it. And it's like, no. Don't do that. That's too much pressure. So
Yeah. I remember the first time I heard the term don't let perfect be the enemy of good, or something like that. Is that right?
I think so.
Because yeah, I remember being that way too. Like, I don't want to submit something till it's like perfect, till it's completely done, or don't want to try something. Um, and definitely learned that with Change Lab. We've done a lot of testing and failing and starting over. And so that's just something yeah, entrepreneurs go through. And it's true, none of us have done something like this before. This has never in history happened before for any of us. And so it's fine to and it's like that across entrepreneurial space everywhere. It's not just native or indigenous entrepreneurs everywhere. They're trying new things, and that's kind of the value of entrepreneurship in general. And no matter how many times you might think, something's not right, or you quote unquote fail and you restart, like something cool always happens out of it. Something always comes from it, there's no way you can plan for that. So just a little bit of our story here. Okay, so, and then the last part of this, obviously this part's gonna blow the 2 pages. I only added it because actually it's not technically part of the 2 pages. These are attachments. And so the financial plan summary includes all of these documents, but not every document is completely required. These are just like, if you want to have the most perfect business plan, you would include all of this. But for the most part, the 3, 1, 2, 3 are the ones that people that are normally sort of required for a business plan that you're submitting for a loan or for investment. It's your income statements or your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, and your cash flow or your cash flow projections. Cash flow can be either your previous cash flow or your cash flow projections. And we do have a workshop for this if you want to, that comes up, I think next week. I think I'm doing it on Tuesday at the Entrepreneurship Hub in Tuba City.
I think also too, to add to this is where I tell entrepreneurs, this is like kind of the testing ground. Like, this is where you get to kind of see your business plan and your roadmap, or even to your model. So if we talk about the BMC, this is the area of documents that you really kind of get to test it in projections, because you get to see, like, for I think a couple of the examples that you made, Jessica, of like, if there's a person who's working close to 70 hours a week and like they're the only one who's working for the business, like, you really start to see like, okay, well, how much did you pay yourself in that time period? How much are you going to pay a person to do so? Like, and then how much profit are you looking for? What then are the expenses to just run the business without any sales to be conducted? This is where it starts to kind of, you start testing what you put into words into actual numbers. And that's where, like, I think a lot of entrepreneurs that I've worked with in the past, because it's their first time doing it, that they struggle the most in this portion because it starts to turn into real numbers and really kind of understand the plan that they put forth. Sometimes very aspirational. And I think if anything, we need that in our communities to continue to be aspirational. But at the same time, too, our starting point starts to look a little different for a lot of people. Like it's not the physical building. Instead, it's an online store. It's not the actual complete most of the time not the physical building, but it's something like a little bit more mobile, or even to it's not essentially the for-profit structure, it's a non-profit structure. Like people start to really start going back after doing this portion of the plan that they had, and then going back through the first couple of stages of their business plan, and things start to get modified, and it can be very discouraging, I think, because as we like to say internally of our team, we brick the toy, but then we have to reassemble the toy, so that it starts to work for us, and that the story that we've been telling this whole entire time doesn't just stop at the financial planning summary, but instead takes life through the investment, and we start to really kind of see it take form, through more points of investment than anything too, because this starts to change as well too as you start to grow. So everything is interconnected. It's also to you the time that you find what you most need, and those numbers start changing. A lot of people start kind of changing their ask for what they need, start actually seeing who they need on their team at this point, um, or even to who they don't need at their on their team at this point of starting their business. Like people are like, I will employ my whole community. And it's like, oh no, I can't pay for all of those jobs at this moment. So let me start with like a contract worker. Let me start with some people who I can't take as full-fledged employees yet, but do as like contractors and things like that, and grow from here. So this is, I feel like, the real testing ground, for what we've gone through already, to show for your business.
Yeah, definitely where the rubber meets the road. And also it is probably another one of the more intimidating pieces, but it doesn't have to be. And especially for businesses who are already operating and where you would just, basically organize your information and then take a look at it from the standpoint of profit and loss and from the standpoint of um, a balance sheet, which is just, basically how much your business is actually worth financially with the numbers. I also have experienced where we took their like their a business's income taxes, their income tax returns, which they never really like. They just know that they get money from the business and they have, they do their taxes and their taxes come out and they pay their taxes, however. Um, so they don't really ever look at the financial status of the business. They just have income taxes. And so I've seen it where we've taken the information from the taxes and put it into the income statement or the balance sheet. And it's a whole different view of your business. And I've seen business owners who have never seen that view. And it's like, oh, wow, like I didn't realize that by doing this, I saved myself all this money, or I could be doing this instead, or, oh, I see where I could add a new product or service. Like it's just a whole different view that they've never seen before. And it gives them these ideas about how they can grow revenue and keep expenses the same, or how they can if they want to like purchase equipment, like what that would mean in terms of a reduction in their operating costs. And, once they get the equipment paid off, what that would do to their finances and their profit. So it's just also it's just a whole nother view of your business. And it doesn't have to be intimidating or scary or even hard to do. We can sit with I can sit with somebody and just ask questions and get the information that I need to put the profit and loss together, which then leads, to the business plan or to the balance sheet and to the cash flow. But so I want to really, really make sure that people don't get scared about this part or worried about it, or even, definitely if you're going to look at your financial plan summary and your financial statements, this is where you're going to really seriously look at what you're doing. This is where it gets serious. Everything else that in the business plan is like, it's planning, it's organization, it's information for you. But your next step in putting together your financial statements that's serious business right there. So again, not hard to do, but serious to actually go through with it, and like a real serious move toward accomplishing whatever goal that you put forth for yourself and for the business. So, any questions? Anybody want to jump in on any questions about financials or this part of your business plan? We didn't talk too much about marketing budget or your payroll projections or your break-even analysis or owner and outside investments. Again, those are just a little bit more complicated to do, or those are sort of the extra credit. And okay, so some of the other tools that we use, this is the business model canvas. This is an alternative to the business plan, especially if you're not somebody who likes to do like bullet points, or if there's a lot that's unknown about your business still. This is really for startups, because when you're starting a company, you have, a million things you're thinking about. One minute you're thinking about, oh, these people are going to be my customer. They're always looking for this. I can provide this for them. To, oh, I need to go talk to this organization over here. They do this event that I'd like to be a part of. I need to make sure that I sign up for that, or I'm available to them. Or, oh, I really want my product to be this type of a product. If to do that, I need to make sure that I have access to this material from this vendor. So I need to create a relationship with that. They're going to be a vendor of mine. I need to think through that. So where do I put that? This person said, I met this person last week at a networking event and they have the skill that I need. At some point I want to hire them, but I don't have anything yet right now. Where do I put that? The business model canvas is a place where you can put all of that. It's not structured as a document. It's structured in different boxes. And on one side of the canvas is everything related to revenue streams, everything related to creating revenue for the business. So your customer segments, your channels, your customer relations, and your value proposition. I should say half of your value proposition is all about creating revenue for the business. That's on the right side. On the left side is all about your cost structures, all the things that are going to cost the business money. So your key partners, people that you need to be in partnership with in order to deliver on your product. And so here your product is really about your value proposition, what you're offering to your customer. So that's why I said the revenue is half of that. The other half of that is your cost, the cost to provide that value. So that's what your key partners are. That's what your key activities are. These are the things I want to make sure that I'm doing in my business that delivers on the value. They cost money, but that's the cost of doing business. What resources, what resources do you need? So remember I talked about, oh, I met this person, they had a skill, I want them to be on my team. You're going to put them there under your key resources, that's a skill you need in your business. Again, it's going to be part of your cost structure. You might say, oh, I really need to be a part of this, some sort of organization like the American Indian Chamber of Commerce. I need to, make sure that I have access to that organization because they're going to provide me with access to these, markets or partners. So that's one of your key partners is the American Indian Chamber of Commerce. So all of these thoughts go through your head at different times, which that's what makes it hard to do the business plan. By the time you get to writing your business plan, you have to have made all these decisions without writing it down. So when you're writing your business plan, you're really writing down the decisions that you made about your business, which for a bit, if you're already operating, that's kind of simple to do because you're already operating. But if you're not operating yet, you're still not, there's a lot of decisions you still need to make about the business. That's what a business model canvas is best for, because you can write everything here, maybe decide to go a different direction, or you've done some research on something and you're not going to use that vendor, you're not going to use that material, you're instead going to do this for your product. So you can change it on here. And then once you have everything, you do the top boxes first, the bottom boxes, the cost structure and the revenue streams. That's what you do. You do those last, because that's a summary of what you wrote before. It's the decisions that you make that are going to be your revenue streams, that are going to be your cost structures. And then, of course, you take that and then you transfer into a profit and loss projection, which means my revenue streams are these things. This is what I think I can do. My cost structures are these things. And then put in the amounts that you can do after. You're obviously going to have to do some research, but for a new business. So I hope I explained that correctly. We have a gigantic, if you go to the Entrepreneurship Hub in Tuba City, we have a big business model canvas across one wall. So if you want to take advantage of that, you can go there and use sticky notes and just use the wall for that. And then, take pictures and then transfer it into your own business model canvas. Okay, and then the next one that we also use is a customer journey and experience map. Again, it's just another tool for you to think through your customer's experience. It can help you think through a lot of different parts of the business plan. It can help you think through your customer, your ideal customer. It can help you think through your operations. It can help you think through your marketing strategy. So it's basically, what are your customers, what's happening to your customer as they go through the journey or experience of doing business with your company. So when you're acquiring customers, right at the first stage is discovering. So what is your customer thinking about your product or service? What actions do you need them to take? How are they feeling at that time? So let's go back to my pizza company, my pizza delivery company. And so my customer is probably thinking, I don't feel like cooking, I'm too tired, kids need to eat, what am I going to do? So the actions is, they need to find my phone number. They need to figure out how, maybe look up my app. So this is where you'll be thinking through, how are all the different ways I can get in front of my customer? That's why pizza companies do a lot of like stickers and magnets. So you put the magnet on your refrigerator and you know it's there. It's always there. Any mother who has kids they need to feed and they're too tired, all they have to do is go to the refrigerator and get that phone number. So that's thinking about your customer's actions. Your customer's feelings. So they're hungry, stressed, just want to get it done. And then what pain points? It could be that, what if the person who answers the call isn't nice to them? What if I don't have enough money for this? What if it takes too long? I'm hungry now, and my kids are hungry now. So those are customer pain points. So what you're basically doing as an owner is you're thinking through what your customer is experiencing so that you can answer that call for every stage of the experience. So this takes some time. It takes some, maybe you're always getting the same question and you're like, why am I getting this question Why do customers keep asking me the same question? Then somewhere in their experience, they're not getting the right information, or the information is not there. So let's say I don't have a magnet to put on the refrigerator as a pizza delivery company. Let's say I don't have a website. I don't have an app, or maybe I do have an app, but so the customers are always thinking, like, they always say, I can't find you. Where's your phone number? How do I order pizza? Holly says, do you take cash or card? I don't have cash. So that's one, like, vendors, right? If we're going to one of the other trend that we do is bazaars. So if I'm going to a bazaar, do I need to get cash? Because the vendors don't take cards. So anyway, that's those type of experiences you want to get out ahead of, because actually if the customer doesn't have to do very much in that place, that's going to be a happy customer, because they feel that you've thought of them. They feel that you're there for them. That mother who can find the phone number on a magnet on her refrigerator, and she's like, I just got to get to the refrigerator and my problem is solved, because she knows that you're the person who she orders from is going to be nice. She knows that it's going to be cheap. She knows it's going to be arriving in less than 20 minutes or 20 minutes. Like, you've solved her problem. And so she's going to be a happy customer. And so that's what this tool is for, is to help you to think through all of those different stages, from acquiring your customers to converting them to a customer to retaining your customer. All right, so we just have a few more minutes. Anybody have any questions? Here's my email address if you want to email me. Holly, thank you for putting the registrations for my coaching sessions, and then also for for all the coaches, if you want to, for Change Labs coaching. There's a link there in the chat to sign up for coaching. You'll find my coaching there, coaching link there as well. And then taking the mystery out of financial projections. So that workshop is similar to this one, but it's doing the financial projections. So it's like, take out a piece of paper. Here's what you would write there, or, so if you have questions, if you want to get sort of a start on it, or maybe you're even thinking like, I have no idea how I would do that. It's very similar to this workshop where you can just ask the question right then and there. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jess. That was so much fun, especially for like a Wednesday evening kind of class. But I think too, it'd be wonderful for a call to action, because we love to continue to help people, and also to, again, practice of giving feedback, also to helping you build these things. So if anything, I would love to put a challenge to everybody on this call, because I feel like I've seen so many familiar faces off of all of the workshops that we are providing this week, for you guys to book a one-on-one coaching call with a coach of all the learnings that you have this week, especially for this one, those of you who I'm sending the blank BMC to essentially work with a coach on an area, or even to get started on one of these areas of workshops that we did. And you guys can essentially do that, or stop by the hub. We have a wonderful in-person team who can help you with these topics as well too, especially the BMC, as Jess notified that we used to have a wall of a BMC, but essentially we do have huge big paper for you guys to essentially kind of work those problems out on that. But yeah, please continue to use our resources that we have on our events page. Also to explore our website for any other kind of resources. We have little snippets here and there of nuggets of information for you guys to like dive into. But I challenge everybody on the call today to book a coaching call with us to work on these documents, because we're really here to help you guys. So, and not just through this of our workshops, but definitely one-on-one. And I think we can dive into a lot more of the details one-on-one too. So, all right. Well, oh yeah, Albert, yes, you have a question. I see it in the chat. Hi.
A quick question. This is just regarding the, first of all, great presentation. Very informative, everything right then and there. I have to say, I'm reaching a challenge. This challenge is being, I have I'm like stuck between two business plans ideas, because I'm on one hand, I'm trying to apply to a grant for a different means, like for a video game idea that that heavily deals with my company's mission. And then on the other hand, I'm doing another business venture, business model or business plan where it's like a dating app. These are the two ideas I'm working on. And I'm always torn on trying to figure out if I should make a business plan that kind of combines the both, or should I just forget that and try to create a business plan that focuses on two of those purposes.
What is your mission for the two businesses? Do you have a mission for them yet?
To incorporate Navajo language and culture through digital media in a sense, and technology, which is a mouthful.
So
And that is that for both? Like you really like that's
That is
your
for
big
both.
work?
That is
Okay.
for both.
I did talk about Albert, you're always at the forefront of my program development. I think, if anything, it is two different products housed underneath your parent the company that you essentially have developing this for, which at the core of it is about culture revitalization or language revitalization. So like I think your executive summary and also to like the operations of the business may slightly change, but they're almost consistent that they're coming from the same company, but they're just two different products that you guys are both trying to develop. That's my positionality of it. So you would essentially create two business plans, but they would essentially have a focus that it's from this company that has had these successes in these areas of development, and it is now trying to pursue a new revenue stream, as Jessica kind of pointed out in our example of the financials. Yeah, like as a new product kind of venture than anything. That's how I would understand it. Jess, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think that you are if you can say one mission, like they're two different products, but you have one mission with both of those products. I also think it's if you think through the operation piece of it, what is it going to take to create the products and deliver the products and to the market? Or if what are the similarities between those things? Is it a software? Is it an app? You know,
So in
the
terms of
description of
similarities,
those.
are you talking like the work that goes behind it?
Both from the operational piece, the work that goes behind creating them and delivering them and maintaining it. If those are similar, I think that's also another case. If they're vastly different, meaning you'd have to hire two different like teams of people, that might be a consideration for separating them. But if they're not, if the same person can do both, or if the same type of people can do both, like you can separate your operations into like innovation and production. So they're producing the actual product or service. And then you have like, I'll just say like data entry or marketing. So they're the interface with the outside world about the product or service, and they're doing all of the narrative building around them. And then maybe another department is maintenance. So they're the ones just maintaining their tech support for the product. They're sort of maintaining the updates or whatever. If you can group those people in those three departments can do the same thing for both products, then yeah, you definitely would want to just combine it under one company and one business plan. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense, actually. It's when you said that last part.
Yeah, because the mission, I feel like it's strong enough that you should do that because you have one mission for two different products. They're pretty different products.
Yes,
But the mission is the same.
Yeah, the mission is very much the same. They do require both development on both ends. Funny enough, they do kind of both require voice actors in both departments. In a way, they both require artists, whether that's graphic design or just even artists in general as well on both ends. The only thing that I can see differentiation is for game design, writers would probably be needed for sure. but I don't know if they can also be labeled as like entry inputters for also like database creations and that stuff. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, I think if like I said, just to answer your question, I'm leaning toward one company because your company provides digital products based on Navajo or focused on Navajo language, or I know there's like maybe it's lifestyle, the development of lifestyle, digital lifestyle products focused on Navajo language. Because then there's a description of like these products, because you might think of another product too, but these products they enhance your customers' lives using, and sustaining the Navajo language. So these are just kind of ideas kind of flying off my head, top of my head. Also organizing them under one company like that it gives you're not starting another company again. You know what I mean? You're not like managing 2 startups is a lot. Thinking of it as managing 1 startup with 2 products, you can build on that much easier.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you also too have the traction of like how, like, if both go well, your multifaceted success and or even to skills to transfer into like another one. If anything, it helps you to continue to be creative and propel to the next thing, as like, and show that your ability as a company to also pivot into other areas as well too, if not similar. So I think that would be a great thing too. But
All right. Because because the challenge is the Indian Collective Art radical grant requires me to be artistic, and for some reason the game development idea just decided to come into my head. I'm like, I've wanted to do this for a long time. This is the opportunity to do it. So I guess that's the challenge of like the business plan and having everything kind of ready to go. And these are why I've been asking all these sorts of questions beforehand.
yeah, awesome. Good job. Well, as always, we are here to help for any type of one-on-one, more detailing of sessions throughout the week. I think we have a lot more available times than what it was before of just Tuesdays. I think we offer sometimes some evening sessions, whatever you peg as evening for our people from Arizona, the state of Arizona, with the time change. But yes, awesome. Well, we're a little bit over time, so I'll close us out if there's no other questions. If you have any questions after this, please feel free to email myself, Jess, or even to you, our hello@Native Startup, or even to you, Raquel and Sophia, who are in-person team at the eShip Hub. So as always, it was so great to be with you guys on these workshops. Continue to be on the lookout for more that we have. Also, too, we post events that are happening around community on our events page that don't particularly pertain to us as hosting it, but we always have some events out there for business owners, or even to skill building workshops from other organizations. So all right then, it was great to see you all, and safe travels home to everybody, and also do have a great evening. Bye.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2-page business plan workshop. Today, we're going to be talking about how to get your business plan started. The workshop is designed to help you to think through all of the parts of the business plan and just write down the main components so that later you can go back and fill in the details. My name is Jessica Stago. I'm a co-founder of Change Labs and also the director of capital strategies. Today, we're going to be talking about the purpose of a business plan, why you might want to create a business plan, also the different parts of the business plan, and then we'll top it off with some tools that you can use on your own to fill in some of those details. And then also, what's the role of financial planning and your financial projections or financial statements in your business plan. So the purpose of the business plan is really just to help you as the business owner to get all of your ideas and make a plan for whatever objective you're going to be pursuing with your plan. And they could be anything from a startup company who wants to reach a certain level of sales in a certain period of time, Or it could be an existing company that thinks that they can expand into a new market, or that they could increase their profit if they can purchase a piece of equipment or hire more people. So many, many reasons why you might do a business plan, but the purpose is really to help you to plan, help you to write down does your business look like today? What are the different components that you know about? And then what might be the information that you're missing that you need to do some research or go out and do some surveying of your customers, or looking at what are the opportunities in terms of vendors, and then thinking through some of the costs involved with those details. Another main reason why a lot of people do business plans is because it's often required for a loan application. So that's also a really good reason to do a business plan, but it also should be more personal to you than that, and thinking through what's the plan to get you to where you want to be and to reach your goals or reach the goals that you have for your business. So what are the parts of the business plan? So today we're going to be going through several different parts, 7 parts of the plan all together. And then really the workshop is designed for you to just jot down your ideas. You're creating your first draft here. So don't worry about it being perfect or even about how you're going to actually write this out. Really just want you to put some bullet points down for each of these parts, and then you can go back and fill in the details. And if you need help with that, we can help you with the coaching for that as well. So the first part of the plan is your objectives. So I want you to write 3 to 7 objectives of the business itself. So what do you want to accomplish with this plan? As I mentioned, one of the main objectives that people have is to be awarded a loan or some sort of investment in their business. So you might want to get a loan for $25,000 to purchase equipment, or you might want to get a larger loan, maybe $250,000 to $500,000 to purchase the property that you're operating in. Those are objectives that I want you to write down. Maybe you're a startup company and you envision your business being able to reach $10,000 in sales in the first year, or maybe even higher than that, $25,000 in sales in the first year as a startup. That's one of the objectives that I want you to write down. And it could also be personal objectives for your business that are personal to you. It might be to leave your job so you can work in your business full time. That's a great objective to have for your business plan. The second part of the plan is your mission. And your mission statement for your business is all about what do you want your business to accomplish in the long term. A lot of times I try to describe this by saying, what do you want your business to be known for? In 20 years' time, what do you want your customers to say about your business? For example, for Change Labs, our mission is really about developing entrepreneurs. So our mission, if I were to put 3 bullets and to do a mission statement for Change Labs, I would put to help Native entrepreneurs build their capacity to start and operate thriving businesses. Another mission is to reduce barriers and obstacles to starting and growing businesses on reservation land. Another mission that we have is provide a space where the community can gather and work together. So those are just 3 things off the top of my head that I'm writing down. I will go back later and say, okay, what is my overall mission that can encompass all the things that I've listed here? So that's the second part. The third part is going to be a company summary. How is your company organized? Are you an LLC? Where are you registered? If you are a sole proprietor, it's really important for you to say, I'm a sole proprietor for this reason. And just to acknowledge that you may not have an official registration with the state or the tribe, but you have thought through the registration process and made a decision to become a sole proprietor. You want to talk about who the owners are of the company, what are the percentages of ownership if there are several owners or more than one owner. You want to talk about how many employees you have in this section. You want to talk about where your company is located and the area that you serve. So you want to be just really succinct with this. This is just basically describing the details of the company and who are the owners and what are the different components that it's made up of. Where, why, how, anything else that is important for the business, to describe the business, I should say. So the fourth component of the business plan is your products and services. So here you want to list the merchandise that you sell. You want to list the services that you sell. You might want to think through whether your merchandise or your services can be put into product groups. So maybe you have thousands of merchandise that you sell, so you want to talk more about them in terms of groups. You want to list any other licenses or subscriptions or guarantees that you offer to your business, to your customers. So this is just the list of products or services and a description of them that gives the reader an idea of what kind of company you are and what you're selling. The next part of the plan is going to be identifying your ideal customer. And this is where you really want to put in a description of who your customer is and really get to know your customer through this process. So some things that you might want to consider that to write down are the background. What are their beliefs? What kind of family do they come from? Where do they work? What's their daily life look like and where they come from? Number two might be the demographics. Are they male or female? Are they mothers, fathers? What age range are they in? What income level, education level? So just the real specific description of who your customers are. For this particular part of the business plan, though, it's really a good idea, like I said, to get to know your customer. So I'll show you a tool that we use called the Ideal Customer Canvas that allows you to ask the questions about your customers so that you can get to know them. You can, getting to know the personality, what their political leanings are, what kind of communication preferences do they have? Do they have any hobbies? You also want to figure out what are their goals in life? What are the things that they worry about, especially pertaining to the industry that you're in or the product or service that you're offering to them. What do they worry about when they look to purchase that or acquire that product or acquire those services? What are the things that are they worried about? This is where you're really going to think through who your customers are, because you need to understand what value they expect from your company. So going over the Ideal Customer Canvas. So you'll be looking through again through the back or thinking about, okay, let me do that again. Okay, so now thinking through the Ideal Customer Canvas. Again, this is a tool just to help you to have a place to write down the background, the demographics, the personality of your customer, of your ideal customer. What are their life goals? What struggles do they have in their life, but also what struggles do they have that creates the need for your product or service in their life? And then how does your product or service provide a solution to those struggles? And the reason that you want to think through that is because that value that you're providing to them is what you need to focus on, not just in creating the value and delivering the value, but also how do they know about that value? What are the ways that you communicate with them so that they can understand that if they purchase your product or service, this is the value that they're getting. And so that's part of your marketing. And so that's why this is really important. Some additional pieces that you'll want to think through are, what are objections? What objections do they have in purchasing your product or service? It might be the cost of the product or service. It might be the availability. It might be the reliability of the value that they intend to seek or they intend to get from your product or service. So all of these things are things you want to think about. What conversations can you have with your customers so that you can learn more from them, but also that they're going to learn from you in the way that you talk about your product or service and your company. And then you also, the tool also includes writing a business short story. So it's about thinking through, the ideal situation of your customer has this problem and your product solves it in this way. And this is this is how it all works. This is the ideal way that you would be able to deliver your product and service to your customer, thinking through all those things. You have developed a product or service that adds value to their life. You have the communication channels open with them that you can communicate that value to them. Your customer is able to access your product or service in whatever way that you choose, whether it's through a retail shop, a brick and mortar location, might be online, it might be in a pop-up shop, it might be at the flea market, it might be, just over the phone, it might be meeting at the chapter house on a certain day. Like, what is that way that your customer can access your product or service? And what's the preferable way, both from your perspective as the company, but also from their perspective as the customer. So it really create your chance to create this sort of short story, this fantasy about the ideal customer that you work with. And then you go from there thinking through, okay, how do I make that happen? And that's what your business plan would end up being. So the fifth component of the business plan is your marketing strategy. So after you've done your ideal customer canvas, you know all this about your customer, you've thought through what are the ideal ways to interact with your customer, what's the ideal way that you go from your customer finding out about your product and your company to them actually purchasing the product or service, and then them being happy about the product or service. And how do you, create that journey that you both want to be on. Then you create a marketing strategy, identifying the greater market or market segment. So thinking through the larger market as a whole. So your ideal customer is really about the one person. Now you're going to think through what is the market they're part of. It could be geographical, meaning everybody in Arizona, or it could be rural communities in Arizona, or it could be on the reservation, it could be Western Agency, it could be, in certain communities like Pinon, the community of Pinon, or within 30 miles of Pinon. So these are just some sort of ways to define your market from a geographic perspective. There's also other ways to define your market. It might be demographics. It might be, my ideal customer, her name is Louise, and she is in the age range of 40 to 60, and she's a mom, she's lived her life, she's a professional, and so those are the type of people that you want to connect with. That's your market. So the demographics is professional women who are mothers and who have jobs and work every day. So then you'll start to connect that market with your strategy and how you're going to reach them. It could be other relevant characteristics. You could segment your market by saying, my market is really up and coming artists who want to be seen more, who are searching for solutions to increase their visibility in the general public. So up and coming artists are that relevant characteristic that you're looking for in the market. You also need to think through what the market trends are. Where are people going now to get the product or service, or to find a solution for the product or service that you're offering? Where are they going now? But also, is there a trend that's changing that? And in these times of change, in terms of technology, in AI, in social media, what are the trends that are affecting your market that are happening now in the environment? And then your marketing strategy is also about how will you communicate with your customer? What is the best way to reach that customer? One example is I had worked with a company that was providing tours, and they spent some money on radio ads at the local radio station. And I kind of thought through, well, who's listening to the local radio station? And we, figured out, do tourists or visitors who are coming to the region who are not from the region actually listen to the local radio? And in most cases, because there's so many other, there's so much other competition for their attention, they're probably not reaching out to the local radio station or reaching out to figure out So there's a lot you have to figure out, right? You got to figure out what station can you get? Does the radio even have an FM station anymore with digital radio and digital sources of media? And so it probably wasn't the best decision or use of their financial resources to purchase radio ads. So really thinking through those kind of things and making sure that you're using the right avenues to communicate with your customers. Another part of your marketing strategy is your competition. Who are you competing with, and how are you unique or different, right? So that's the most obvious competition analysis that you'll do. But another competitor is often what people don't think about is what other alternative solution might there be, or is there an alternative solution to the customer's needs in terms of the product or service that you're offering? So if customers, let's just say the entertainment industry, what's the alternative to the entertainment industry, right? Especially if it's things like digital entertainment. The alternative is that they just don't purchase entertainment products. They decide to go out to the trails, or they decide to do things that are actually offered to them for free that aren't necessarily digital entertainment. So there's a whole nother competition that some business owners don't think about, because it's not a direct competitor, but it's actually another option for the needs that your customers have. So make sure to think through that as well. And then another really important piece of your marketing strategy is communicating that value proposition. So when you were thinking through the ideal customer, you thought through, what is the value that I'm adding to this customer's life? And so your marketing strategy really needs to be about how you communicate that value. So customers generally want to know that if they're purchasing something from you, it's because they feel a connection to you and to your company, that you understand what it is that they want. You understand the way they feel about the product or service, or you understand their needs enough to be offering a solution. And that has to do with your storytelling. Are you telling the right story? Are you talking in a way that your customers can listen to you and can identify their own life in the story that you're telling? And that would be compelling enough to trust you in the solution that you're providing. So that's your marketing strategy. The next component is going to be management and operations. And so management operations is really, how are you delivering that value? So you want to list your leadership team. So here you're just going to, write down all the people that you work with, or if it's just yourself, you want to put your name down there and then list what credentials and qualifications they have. You want to identify each role that is needed in the delivery of that value. So if you make things, you make products, you want to make sure to list who is making the product and what their qualifications are. You also want to list who takes care of the marketing piece, who takes care of your administrative piece, who takes care of your financial, of your banking, your legal requirements. So thinking through what each role is in your company that's needed, identifying what those roles are and who is playing those roles. And I know for a lot of small businesses, the owner, the maker, the product designer, the person who's actually making the product, that's all the one person, one or two people, which is fine. But you still want to be able to identify those roles and say, this is how I'm able to accomplish this business and play these different roles. So you also want to think through the operations of your business in terms of the capacity that you have. So you don't want to say something like, I'm going to be open, my business is going to be open 7 days a week for 12 hours a day. But it's only going to be me that works in my company. First, people understand and they can do the math. Like, one person can't spend 12 hours a day in a business, forever. There has to be a plan for how you're actually going to operate the business and how you're going to generate that capacity to deliver on the value. Because remember, there's a value that you're trying to accomplish here with your business, and your business plan should have a plan to accomplish that value. So if you are saying, I work in the business 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's going to be for 360 days, there's going to be a reduction in value over time. So that's just sort of an extreme example, but it's only to point out that there's capacity issues that you need to address in your plan. And you may not have all the answers now, but write down what those capacity issues are going to be so that you can then have a plan to grow your team later, or to have these resources available, or to acquire software or whatever it is that's going to help you to manage that capacity issue. And the next part of your business plan is your financial plan. And these would include your financial statements. So it'll be your income statement, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement. And you might also include a marketing budget. You might also include a payroll projection. You might also include a break-even analysis. And you might also need to explain the ownership plan, or who are owners of the business, and what are the investments for each of the owners, especially if it's a new business. How do investments into the business impact ownership if that is the case? So your financial plan is really the numbers that you have there really should match how you describe the business in the other parts of the plan. So, if you plan to hire employees in year 2 of your business, you're going to have that extra cost included in financial projections. If you're not a startup company and you have existing financial statements that somebody might take a look at, then you really want to make sure that your plan is in line with what's actually happened financially. So if you have mentioned in the plan that you see a growth in your revenue of 25% every year, you want to make sure your income statements do have a 25% increase in your revenue every year. So it really just verifies what was written about in the plan when somebody can take a look at your financial statements and verify that, okay, I see what's happening in this business. I see the need for additional equipment. I see the need for working capital to hire more people. So your financial statements really do just sort of verify the narrative that you've laid out in the rest of your business plan. So some of the other tools that we've used in the business plan, or in business planning in general, and helping people to do business plans, one of them is called the Business Model Canvas. And it really the Business Model Canvas is a 1-page worksheet. And I like to sort of explain it like having a place to write down all of your ideas. So when you're thinking through your business, or thinking through the growth of your business, or all these ideas around your business planning, you need to have a place to write down things that might actually not pan out the way that you think it will, or you're not sure, you don't have all the information, but you think that might happen. There's a place for you to put these ideas, and that's what the Business Model Canvas is. It's a lot more messy than a document. But it's meant to be a place where you can have everything on one sheet. It's a map, so you can move things around, you can take things off, you can add things, you can go deeper into certain areas. Let's say you meet somebody and you say, oh, I want to use them as a supplier, but I'm not there yet. You have a place where you put them and you say, okay, this person is going to be a key resource for my company. And then it allows you to sort of summarize all of what's in your map to what's going to impact your revenue, what's going to impact your costs, and how all of this impacts that value proposition that we talked about. So that's the Business Model Canvas, and we do have workshops on that as well. The other tool is called the Customer Journey and Experience Map. And I like to use this tool when people are thinking through the operations piece of their company, because what it does is it sort of puts you as the owner into the shoes of your customer. So every step of the way, the interaction that you have with your customers, how are your customers feeling? What are they thinking? What questions might they have? What emotions are coming up as they interact with your customer or with your business? And this is from it maps out from the minute that they have an interaction with your company. So it could be a social media post that you put up and they see that that's the first interaction, and you're thinking through, what do they think? Would they have questions about what you're saying? Or how is it clear how they might react to your social media posts? All the way through where they've actually made a purchase from you, and then what happens after that. How do you make them a repeat customer? Or maybe it's not, maybe you don't want them to be a repeat customer, but you want to provide additional services to them. How are you doing that? What's the process that they're going through, so that you can think through what your operations should be and what they need to be for you to reach the goals that you have. So those are a couple different tools. We have many tools at Change Labs, so don't hesitate to reach out. I want to thank you all for joining me today. My email address is jessica@nativestartup.org. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. You can also sign up for coaching at the Change Labs website, and you can find our coaching links there to sign up with me or any of our other Change Labs coaches. Yeah, thank you very much.